And welcome back. This is your man Warrior. This is another patron roster review, and this is Saidel. I hope I said that right, Saidel. He's from the Thai Guild Raiders. So what's happening, Thai Guild Raiders? He's been playing for a year, and he is a whale. He definitively is a whale. Now the team he's using in Arena is sick. I mean, sick is good. Sick is awesome. Asajj Ventress double Zeta lead with Asajj. Leading the pack, you've got a really weak zombie in the background getting destroyed so it can't be fractured. And of course, you've got Old Daka, Zeta Unique with Mother Talzin, Zeta Unique, both in the back gear 12. And Barriss Offee. Barriss Offee or General Kenobi can go on that slot really well, but Barriss Offee's amazing. And because he's a whale, he's gotten kind of ahead of his leaderboard. I'm sure he probably sits in the #1 slot. It's probably really difficult for anybody to bump him with this team. And the Night Sisters are frustrating as all get up, but he's wanting to know a few things. I know he's been a whale for a year, but he wants to know some Zeta order, some of the next few that he might want to or need to Zeta. He was kind of leaning towards the new Jedi training Rey and BB-8 and R2 and things like that. But he also wants to know who should he be gear 12ing next, some of the characters that should go to gear 12, and in aspect and relevance to kind of, using the filter of territory wars and territory battles. So as far as who to Zeta, what ships, what gear 12, all of this is under the filter of, territory battles and territory wars. So we're not going to directly talk about territory wars and battles teams, but keeping that in mind, what should we be Zetaing and what should we be gear 12ing? And then as far as ships, just kind of taking a look at ships, and then a shout out to his shard mates, his leaderboard. He wanted to shout out to them. I don't have any of their names, but I'm sure you guys, when you see this, will go, yep, I hate his team. You're probably thinking that as well. So the first thing we wanted to talk about a little bit is the Zeta order, and I'm going to go ahead and go through a few Zetas I think would be worthwhile. And the first one that popped into my mind, because you said Rey, was actually BB-8's roll with the punches. It is awesome. This is such an amazing Zeta. So that would actually be one of the first Zetas that pops into my mind. The next is actually Grand Admiral Thrawn, and the reason is it's his leadership ability. You already have his unique, but he is the best Empire leader and one of the best dark side leaders in the game. Top 3, if not #1 for sure. He makes my #1 slot in my opinion, and you don't have his leadership ability Zated, but the leadership on him is phenomenal for both territory wars, offense, defense, and territory battles. So Grand Admiral Thrawn would definitely go into the ring as probably a #1 or #2 contender for another Zeta that you would want to throw out there. #3 is coming by way of Rey. Now, the reason why Rey didn't beat BB-8 was because you already have Rey's leadership ability Zetaed. So in my opinion, BB-8's the next one, and then you come back and do Insight and then Virtuous Protector. So my #1 was BB-8's roll with the punches. #2 is Thrawn's leadership for Darkseid, because I know you said you're leaning towards Darkseid development now. And then #3 would be doing your Insight and Virtuous Protector for Rey. And you're questioning whether you should do it or not. It's not going to be a bad idea, because this is an amazing character for Phase 2, 3, 4 of the heroic AAT. She can do Rancor. She can help with territory wars defensive teams. She can help with territory wars offense teams. She can help with territory battles in Lightside. She's a phenomenal. She's literally like the second best Lightside character. So putting the Zetas on her like you would with CLS is a no-brainer. But make sure that you get BB-8's roll with the punches, because he goes from being okay to being phenomenal with that. And then also Thrawn's leadership for the Darkseid territory battles. It will really make a difference. Also Thrawn's leadership for territory wars. There's a really cool Thrawn team, with Krennic and Death Trooper and Shore Trooper and stuff, with Thrawn as the lead, that is really tough to beat when it's on defense. So that leadership's awesome. And then after Rey, It would actually come out of First Order, and I would actually pick the faction First Order to start putting Zetas on after you kind of finish up Rey and Thrawn. Thrawn's a one-off, and then Rey and BB-8 are kind of a group, and you could either do Rey and BB-8 next, or you could do First Order next, and then whichever one you do, then the next round you could of Zetas you can do for the other. But I would suggest Rey and BB-8 next, since you've got them so developed, since your First Order's not as developed. But once you get Rey and BB-8 and Thrawn done, you'll come down to, for dark side territory battles and territory wars, the First Order is amazing, but it really requires a Zeta on Kylo Ren Unmasked's leadership, and yours is a 4-star Gear 7. So you're going to want, you don't necessarily need him to 7 stars for territory wars, but you definitely want to take him up to Gear 11 and Zeta his leadership ability. The other one, other than his leadership, Scarred, which gives him an auto taunt capability, is not a necessity. It's a cool Zeta, but it's not really a necessity. It's just the leadership of the Merciless Pursuit that he really needs Zeta to really give that little extra boost. And in territory wars, him and his First Order are one of the hardest teams to beat in the game because of all the boosts they get from territory wars. And then also because of ships, you're trying to get the edge on other characters. You can get another 20 speed on the First Order TIE pilot's ship. I'm not even kidding you. If you are to Zeta Kenai, gun down, and put his last 3 pieces of Gear 12. So the Omega on gun down, the Zeta on Keen Eye, and then the 3 Gear 12 pieces, and he'll go from 174 to 194 on speed. Absolutely batty, and trust me, that will give you a competitive edge in ships, which I'm recommending. I had to do this because my leaderboard for ships can't take a chill pill, and they've all done that. They've all put their Gear 12 pieces in, and they're Zetaing everyone, and I have to keep up, or otherwise I'm getting bumped out of the top 20 and I can't even climb. So I had to do it at a necessity. At some point you'll get there. I know you're ahead of the game, but consider it, because the First Order is definitely getting stronger. We already know that the new character, Foe, which is the First Order Executioner, is coming into the game now. So definitely I would suggest this team with the First Order TIE pilot crew. And then lastly, for Zetas, the third one I would really suggest is Return Fire on First Order Stormtrooper. It's phenomenal. And the First Order Stormtrooper is one of the 2 best tanks in the dark side, so definitely want to finish him off. I know a lot of people not quite aware that the First Order Stormtrooper is so amazing, but he is once he has his Zeta. So that would be the 3rd Zeta that I would suggest for this team. Now, as far as ships, your ship, you can get number 1 every day, and you're running the literal team I was going to suggest, so you don't need any help with your top 5. Just continue to develop those characters. Now, your back 5, I would actually have number 1 as 5s. And the reason for 5s is because it's super tanky and he has an AoE, and by the time your first backup comes in, the other team is probably target locked a little bit, and when he comes in, he'll default use his AoE that does target lock on the primary, which will select a non-target locked ship and then do damage to all the other target lock ships. It is insane how much damage he can do. He's also really tanky, which is going to help in your ship's fight because of the other ships that you're facing against. Now, after 5s, you want immediately to come after the Scimitar to come after. And the reason for that is if they do kill, let's say, Biggs, and 5s comes in, they're going to start being able to target anybody they want, and they're going to kill one of your target lock ships that's a little squishier. Maybe the First Order TIE Pilot, or maybe they're going to go after your TIE Reaper. After one of those 2 ships is dead, Scimitar will come in, do a false taunt onto 5s. Nobody's going to care about 5s. They're going to leave them alone. And so that's going to create another tanky situation, which will give you a little bit more time to do more damage. As far as the last 2 slots, slot number 3, I'd actually use Biston's U-Wing. He has a unavoidable target lock on his special. And then, of course, he's a fast ship. He can stealth. He can kind of take care of himself. It's a really great backup ship to bring in to replace one of the target lock ships that got damaged inside of combat. And of course, I have an affinity for Slave 1 with multiple damage that he can do AoEs, one to health straight and the other one to all target locked enemies. And the other basic does a lot of target lock with multiple hits, up to 4 hits on basic. Plus, he is just a very tanky ship. This would be the last ship that I'd have in there. Now, just because we put him in that order doesn't mean that you can't pull them out of order when you're playing offensively. So keep that in mind and use the ship that's most appropriate when you lose one of your first 5. But these are the 4 ships in your backup that I would suggest. I'm interested to know what you currently are running in your back line out. And then as far as Gear 12 characters, obviously, you want everybody in your arena team to Gear 12, except for maybe the zombie, and you want all of your pilots to be Gear 12. So arena team or arena team variants and pilots for all of your top 5, all of them Gear 12. Outside of those, I would actually suggest finishing off Darth Maul. Darth Maul gets a huge boost in health with this next round of gear that gets him to Gear 12, and that's one thing that he needs. And you're going to probably use Darth Maul Zeta as a defensive team in territory wars, and so because of that, you want to have him a little tankier so he lasts a little longer. And his Gear 12 would make sense because he's a pilot. So you're using his ship, or at least I'm suggesting that you use his ship. Right next to Darth Maul was 5s, and again, I'm suggesting you use his ship. So if you're going to take my suggestion to use his ship, I would recommend taking him to Gear 12. And the last one I saw that really stuck out, other than the ones you've already done, which are a lot, is going to be Boba Fett. I am suggesting that you use Boba Fett's ship, and for that, I would continue to finish developing him from Gear 11 to 12. And I would do all of his Omegas. You may not want to do his Zeta, but I would do all the Omegas on his leader, special, and special. All of those Omegas are going to give extra speed and health to his ship in arena and make it faster. And that ship isn't as fast as some of the other ships, and so any kind of extra speed you can get is a good thing. So these Omegas will add some speed. If you want to know how much, basically look at the ship, add the Omega one at a time, and then each time you add an Omega, go back and look at the ship. You'll notice that like after one Omega, he gets a speed, the next Omega, he gets nothing, the next Omega, he gets another speed. So it's going to add it. As his power level grows, it'll add those stats. It's not specific to what you're doing so much as the stats grow after you reach power thresholds. And these things I'm telling you to do increase his power, which puts you past those power thresholds that I'm discussing. So Saidel from Thai Guild Raiders, you're doing really well. You're totally wailing out and doing just fine. I'm sure you could be teaching some other people about stuff. You could probably even teach me about your Night Sisters. Really great team. It was fun. Make sure that you take a look at the Rey and BB-8 combo for the Zeta possibility. Thrawn leadership, just side note, that's just great for Darkside. And then, of course, if you want to work on your Darkside Territory Battle team First Order, you're going to, though, have to work on your First Order Stormtrooper and Kylo Ren Unmasked. And then you could Zeta the First Order type pilot because you use it in ships, and potentially Crew, which is Kylo Ren Unmasked, and the First Order Stormtrooper. In ships, I still recommend 5 Scimitar, Biston, and Slave 1 in your back lineup, but your initial 5, I would continue to use those. But finish your pilots all up to Gear 12. Some of them you'll even want to put in the Gear 12 pieces, and make sure you Omega everything you can Omega on all of the pilots in your top 5. Again, shout out to his leaderboard. I feel sorry for you guys having to fight him, especially his Night Sisters. And as far as Gear 12, man, you're doing really well on Gear 12 characters. Your arena team, your pilots, maybe Darth Maul, 5s, and Boba Fett, because they all have ships. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior, out.